Hello, friends. Welcome in, one and all. Just past high noon on the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Almost forgot the name of the show. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Happy to have you with us this Tuesday edition, October 29, 2024. Thank you for being around whatever time you're able to give us. We're certainly appreciative of the time today. I can do that myself. It annoys me to no end that we can't figure out how to do this in a way where we don't have to do it during the show. But you know what? That's my annoyance. And I'm a little grumpy today. Y'all all have to forgive me. I'm a little grumpy today because I've been vandalized. I'm a little off my game today because I experienced vandalism. Now, if you want to know the nature of the vandalism that I've experienced, I'll go ahead and tell you. We have lockers here at Super Talk 99.7.
Why don't we hold that for the title of the show?
Oh, okay.
Let's
do
wait
that.
till then.
All right, let me allow you to get the pleasantries to wash over you then, and then we'll do it that way. By the way, we've got 3 full hours of what I hope to be talk radio excellence on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, starting right now and going to 3 o'clock. We'll hand off to the drive at that time. Ken Weaver's back in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak, fresh off an award-winning newscast. And we appreciate Ken Weaver and everything he does for us. Hey, Ken.
Hey, boys, what's going on?
How's your afternoon going so far?
It's going good so far, Brother Murphy. Yeah,
That's good. That's good stuff. Hey, I want to talk to you about your. Can I call this your? Am I allowed to call? I don't want to step on your journalistic toes here.
Okay.
But you and I had a conversation right before the show.
Yes.
About this so-called hot mic moment with Kamala Harris.
It's a hot mic moment between Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Vice President Kamala Harris.
And you have an interesting theory about this hot mic moment.
Yeah.
And I like it. I don't know that I agree with it, but I like the theory.
Well, here's the thing. It shows them sitting at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
They're handed 2 full glasses of what looked like a lovely IPA beer.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
They both take a drink.
IPAs taste like feet. But anyway, go ahead.
And Governor Whitmer says something along the lines of, really been fighting hard for you, Madam Vice President.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Madam Vice President says, yeah, but I, really got to fight for the man vote. And then all of a sudden they look around and the Vice President says, well, it looks like our secret's out. It looks like the mics are on. And they kind of chuckle. Here's the problem. You can clearly see the boom mics right next to the Vice President.
Which means it was a total setup.
Yeah.
So you're calling setup?
Absolutely. I am. And, I get it. Come on. I'm sure every politician out there from day one has probably had these setup moments. But this is just, to me, and everybody who is in this business, and especially politicians, those mics are on. The mics are on.
One, in our business and in the political business, you are trained that if you walk into a room and there is a microphone anywhere in the room,
yes,
you are to assume that microphone is hot.
Right. And my thing is I think it is true that the Harris campaign is worried about the male vote. I think they are very worried about that. There's just a part of me that wonders, were they trying to show a couple of, working ladies sitting at the bar enjoying a cold brew?
So the debate...
So that somehow would sway a man to change his mind.
Well, look at those hard-working women sitting there after a long day at work.
My favorite spontaneous moment of the whole election cycle, though, is when she decided to pick Tim Walz and just called him out of the blue to let him know he was her pick. And they happened to have cameras on both of them.
Happen to have cameras there.
Well, I liked how whenever they all stopped at the convenience store, which had strangely been cleared of any customers, and the Harris campaign just, they got hungry.
Where are the Doritos?
Yeah, and they're tossing each other snacks over the aisle and like catching them with one hand. Like, man, they are real people.
You mean it was fake and it was shut down and the Secret Service wouldn't let randos in?
Yeah. So Donald Trump does his McDonald's hit, and the entire storyline is that was a fake hit, right? It was fake. It was a stunt. It was whatever. The Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, I don't disagree. My initial reaction, Ken, now that I think about it more, I think you might be right. My initial reaction was because we were talking in the hallways and it's like they think we're stupid. And we can't figure all of this out. And my reaction was, or maybe they're just that stupid.
Well,
maybe it's both.
Maybe it was their sixth beer. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they were just sitting there getting hammered.
Kamala, most of the time on the campaign trail, she comes off a little hammered, honestly.
But, I'm just, it just strikes me as...
I mean, what do they gain?
And here's the thing about Trump. We know what... Yes, Trump had told everybody he was going to work at a McDonald's.
That's right.
Okay, so, yeah, it's staged, but yet he is still... He's not pretending it's something else.
That's right. Here is what wasn't staged. Now, obviously, those were Trump supporters that got in line for the opportunity to get some food from Donald Trump. Those were real people, and those were real reactions. When you see the guy pull up to the counter, and Donald Trump is the one that's serving him his food, the reaction that this guy had to Donald Trump being there and him talking about how appreciative he was of Donald Trump and how awesome he thought Donald Trump was, that was absolutely real.
I believe it to be.
Yeah, I mean, that was a real voter. These were not staged performers like Kamala Harris has been accused of hiring to go to her campaign events.
Right.
So yes, the 1837 just seconds ago said, hey, the McDonald's was closed, just saying. Yeah, keep up. We said that 4 minutes ago.
We know.
We said that 4 days ago.
The man has had 2 attempts on his life.
The Secret Service is not going to allow Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, or anyone else to walk into an arena or a convenience store or a McDonald's or anywhere where they have not cleared the room and made sure that there's no danger.
Right. We knew that the convenience store was cleared out, too. It's how they were acting. It was just impromptu.
That's right. Oh, we just stopped in to get some soda. Where are the Doritos? Doug. Oh, where are they?
Look here, Tim. Corn nuts.
Shut up. It wouldn't surprise me. My initial reaction was that they're stupid enough to not know the mics are there. But maybe it's that they think we're stupid enough that we don't understand how all of this works. And, oh, by the way, behind them, and you know what? The more I think about it, Ken, the more I think you're right. And I didn't even think about it this way. Because you know what was facing them? I mean, have you ever seen the other side of that guy? You have, Weaver. I know. The other side, there are probably 30 people in the press.
Absolutely.
All of them with cameras, all of them with mics, some of them with boom mics.
Their cell phones are recording.
So how do you not know that everything that you're saying is on tape?
We sure have been working hard for you here in Michigan, Madam Vice President. Yeah, but I really do need that man vote. Oops, I think our secret's out.
I'm gonna find this.
I've got to find it. I saw it this morning. And I just wanted to just go through the TV and say, stop treating us like we're morons.
Gretchen, let's get Gretchen Whitmer. And, there she is. All right. Oh, here it is. I think I got it. I think I got it just that quick. Thank you, Elon Musk. The Twitter machine. The Twitter machine is, you can search audio and video selections better on Twitter than you can on Google nowadays because Google doesn't allow you to find the ones that they don't want you to see.
Everyone's heard us that we look at the ground. Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here listening to everything. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. So, you'll bleep my F words. We just told all the family secrets. Shit.
We just told all the family secrets, Ken.
Yeah, they did. They had no idea.
Let's see. One more time, real quick, right up front, because Whitmer's saying something about how hard she's been working, and listen to how Kamala reacts to it. We got to get men. We got to have men.
Yeah.
Listen to us. Everyone's heard us that we look at the ground. Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here.
That's a hard one to hear. There's a better version of this thing. Oh, here it is. This might be the better version of it, Ken. This is good. All right, they sit down.
Aren't you kind of more of a wine person?
Oh, look, full beers in front of them.
And they look good.
I'm having what she's having.
Might be is that an IPA?
I think it is.
It's an Oberon.
You can have mine, Ken.
Okay.
Which many are calling Kamalazoo. Yeah. Cheers. Okay, cheers.
Oh, isn't that nice? Having themselves a beer.
Good. And I mean, it's different. And you know what I think of it? And just talking it out. First time voter.
Yeah, we got to get men. So they sit down. They acknowledge the assembled media. They acknowledge all of the boom mics. They acknowledge that all of that's going on around them. And then you're right. It was a completely staged moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely staged moment. And so what is the end game there? That they're trying to shame men into voting for Kamala Harris, I suppose. I mean, I guess that's the play.
Trying to make them look like, they've got it's been a hard day out on the campaign trail.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of working ladies.
We're just like you.
Yeah, having some ice cold beers. And oops, forgot the mics were on.
Forgot that those dadgum mics caught us talking like normal folk talk about how much we need to get men to vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
And who knows, man? Man, maybe that did sway some independents.
You know
who
what?
knows?
God bless you. If that's what sways you,
if that's what does it.
Just remember, I used to use this joke a lot, and now I don't use it anymore because Democrats are getting so touchy. They're getting so butthurt about some of this that they might try to come after you and suggest that it's election interference. I used to make the joke, Ken, that, hey, we're anticipating so much turnout on Election Day. Remember, Tuesday, Republicans vote, and Wednesday, Democrats vote. So if you're a Democrat, show up at the polls Wednesday morning. Vote early, vote often. I've stopped making that joke.
Yeah,
because one, Democrat.
It was happening.
Well, because it was happening. Sadly, they're just that dumb.
It's first come, first served for the donuts.
That's what they tell me. Mr. Bell K.
Title?
Yeah, we're going. So it's episode 682 of our proceedings today. It's 7 days before our election day. It's 7 days before our election night watch party, and we're excited about that. Brought to you by U.S. Pest, Glock Store, amongst others. It's Locks for Trump Days 241. That's right. I've been growing out these flowing locks for the last 241 days in anticipation of President Donald J. Trump, our 47th president of the United States of America. And I've made a commitment that if DJT does, in fact, win on election night 7 days from now, I'll grow these things out until Inauguration Day. On this Tuesday, October 29, Bell K., who chooses not to participate on the television side of things outside of this title, has offered us one. Episode 682 is entitled
Matt Murphy, proudly wearing that I voted sticker and rocking one on the break room locker.
Okay, I'm mad at you, and I think you did it.
I did not
I
do it.
think you did. Based on your reaction, we're going to sleuth this out.
Sleuth.
We're going to play a game of Clue, and Bell K was found in the commissary with the sticker. And he did it.
And just I had a candlestick as a backup.
Colonel Mustard is dead in the library. I say. Man, I loved that movie. Did y'all watch that movie when it first came out?
I saw it in theater.
I saw it in the theater, too.
Yeah, I saw it on VHS.
You know, there were alternate endings to the film.
Yeah.
And but the best one is when, who was it?
Didn't they shoot an ending for everybody being the villain?
They shot like 6 alternate endings, and then eventually the one that stuck was I just remember the end of it, and I forget which one it was. It wasn't Colonel Mustard.
Well, I thought part of their marketing plan when they put it out was depending on the region you were in would depend on who the perpetrator was.
No, and I remember, and I could be wrong, that they said depending on what day you went, you could get a different. Like they wanted to create multiple theater opportunities with the multiple endings. But all I remember is that there was one guy in the movie that was gay or presented as gay throughout the entire movie. And everybody made jokes about him being gay. And at the end, it turned out he was like he figured it all out. And when he was explaining it to everybody, the punchline to the entire movie was, and as for me, I plan on going home and having a nice long sleep in bed with my wife. Because they had called him, right? And then he left. Anyway, if you've never seen the movie, Martin Mull was in it.
Christopher Lloyd.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Was in it. Oh, it was a great film. Great film.
Tim was the butler, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Tim Curry was the
Michael McKean.
Oh, yeah, but I forgot Michael McKean. He was Lenny or Squiggy, but he was also this guy.
Yeah, he was Mr. Green.
He was Lenny.
He was Mr. Green. Mr. Green's the one that said at the end, he is like, I plan on going home and going to bed, or going to sleep in my bed with my wife. I think I'm remembering that right. Anyway, I'm going to clue out who vandalized my locker. Somebody vandalized the locker today, guys. They put a nasty, stinky, stupid, taxpayer-funded I voted sticker on my locker. And while Bell K remains a prime suspect, he is not suspect number one. Suspect number one is Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News. I mean, without question. That is a passive-aggressive act. That's got Dan Mandis all over it.
Boys, you know there's a camera in the commissary.
I know. Now,
you know it's not plugged in, right?
Mandis still wants to believe that I was the guy that was putting magnets on his locker.
So that's how he would get you back.
Right. And so, but he knows, like, the magnets appeared. I was gone for like 3 days, and magnets appeared while I was gone. So he knows that it couldn't possibly be me, but he still suspects me, and I understand that because I'm a suspicious kind of guy.
He's a person who has trouble trusting,
and there's no question about it. And why wouldn't you? I mean, poor fella, his wife puts a skeleton in his car when he's asleep, and have you not heard about that?
No, yeah, I have.
Oh my!
Scared him.
She posted on, Amy posted, she put it on Facebook like the night that she did it, knowing that he was in bed and that he wouldn't look at her Facebook the next morning. So everyone knew what was going to happen to Dan before he did. She put a full-size skeleton in his passenger seat in his car and buckled it in.
And it actually worked on him?
Well, he's getting in his. I mean, you think about it, Bell. It's the pitch black dark. It's 2:00 in the. He's getting in the car at 2:00 in the morning, half asleep, hadn't had his space cowboy coffee.
Yeah, space cowboy coffee.
And he sits down and there's a skeleton sitting right beside him.
Well, I'm of the opinion that man, there's probably a lot of skeletons buried under his crawl space. So that's where I don't believe he would be surprised.
There's a few. There might not be skeletons in his closet, but there's a few bones in his shoes. I'll tell you that. 24 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll talk about Kamala Harris. I'll tell you where she won't be. She might be doing these staged photo ops in front of IPA beer, but she won't be sitting down with Joe Rogan because that's how you do it. You make rules and you have requirements that you know that the possible interviewer will not meet, and so you can say that you offered yourself up to Joe Rogan. He simply declined. We'll tell you everything that went down there. 7 days to go. The media has labeled the Madison Square Garden rally as a hate rally, a Nazi rally, and all of that spilled over on CNN. That's been much discussed, and we'll give you our take on it on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, folks. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief wants to assist you if you are in need. Do you feel in pain? Are you tired of being in pain? Have you noticed pain in your legs or your back or your hips or your feet or wherever it might hurt? At the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, they do things a little bit differently. They take the time to listen. They take the time to understand and create personalized solutions just for you. What would you do if your pain was gone? Can you imagine the possibilities? You know, I did. It's one of the reasons that one of the first things I did when I came to Nashville was find myself a chiropractic care center. I found the Dr. Gill Center. Take it from me. Dr. Gill works. Dr. Wendy works. Dr. V, Dr. Dominic, and the rest of the team there. It's a team approach at the Dr. Gill Center, and all of them have the skills to help you live a pain-free life starting today. Make the call. Make the appointment at the Dr. Gill Center, 615-882-4838. 615-882-4838, or go to callmepainfree.com. That's callmepainfree.com. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about you and your money, because you utilize your money in a way that you hope is used down the road for good conservative causes and not for liberal woke nonsense. The number one question I get from listeners: how can I contribute in a way other than voting, in a way other than the election 7 days from now? It's critical to know where your dollars go. Most credit card companies sadly funnel money to the left. Now you have a choice. Coin is that choice. Coin is America's conservative credit card. You earn cash back while fighting back against the liberal agenda. Apply now at coin.com. That's COIGN.com. COIGN.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures. Easy for me to say, for full details.
Got a disabled vehicle, and it is slowing things down eastbound 24. This thing is on the left shoulder, just south of 40. Former President Trump rallying voters before he goes to Pennsylvania to rally voters. Hear what he said at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
He's talking last night, and I've got some clips for later on in the show. Talking last night, he was like, well, she's taking days off. Was she taking a day? I haven't taken a day off in 58 days. I feel great. I'm not exhausted. I feel great. Huge. Yeah, Donald Trump's getting after it, man. 7 days to go. Is anyone else like me in that I wish today was election day? I really do. And I understand that we got a week to go, and I understand, we knew that from the beginning. I get all of that. I don't want to peak too early. I feel like the enthusiasm for Donald J. Trump is at an all-time high. And by all-time high, here's why I feel good. And I fight with liberals on social media all the time. If you want to watch some of that interaction, go over to my Twitter handle, @MattMurphyShow. That's @MattMurphyShow. And you can join in the fun. I engage with liberals, conservatives, and libertarians alike. We talk. If you understand that Twitter is a cesspool, or X is a cesspool full of awful people saying awful, nonsensical things, and you should utilize it for your fun and amusement, then it's a lot better place. It's a lot easier place to deal with.
You're not a real libertarian.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
I got your back, baby.
Yeah, the way that you know that you're a libertarian is when other libertarians tell you that you're not a real libertarian. And if you're not a libertarian, you probably don't understand that. And you're probably not a real libertarian. So there you go. Well, one way or the other, at Matt Murphy Show to find out more on the X machine. But I engage quite a bit in our liberal for our liberals over there because they're not man or woman enough to call the show. I wish they would. I wish we could engage more with the political left on the radio show and the phone lines, and you're always invited, 615-737-9986. With that in mind, I'll tell you what's going on over there and why I wish it were Election Day today, because I don't want to peak too early. The enthusiasm is great. However, the liberals are fighting back in a voting way, and they're fighting back from a voting challenge way in the legal system. We'll tell you about all of that right after the news on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes and election 2024. Former President Trump at Mar-a-Lago this morning, rallying voters before heading out to Pennsylvania.
So we're going to fight like hell for the next 7 days, and then hopefully... And then hopefully, and most importantly, we're going to be fighting even harder for the next 4 years because we're going to turn this around and we're going to make this country greater than it has ever been.
Yeah, former President Trump heading off to Pennsylvania today. Vice President Harris tonight in Washington, D.C. will give what the campaign's calling her closing argument speech with 1 week until Election Day. The White House has her backdrop. Harris expected to urge voters to turn the page on Trump and pledge to put country over party. Today is the last day to request an absentee ballot in Tennessee, and if you were planning on casting your ballot by mail this year, you better get moving. U.S. Postal Service recommends that you get your mail-in ballot in the mail at least a week before Election Day, which is today. A lot of information on the post office's website. Another casual dining chain restaurant is closing some of its locations. TGI Fridays says it's going to focus on retooling its brand and close 50 locations in states like California and New Jersey.
TGI Fridays has admitted this year that it needs to revitalize the brand amid slowing sales. And this is a trend that we've seen in other chains like Red Lobster. The seafood brand declared bankruptcy, shuttered locations this spring after its $20 all-you-can-eat shrimp promotion took a big toll on its bottom line.
That is Elizabeth Schulze reporting. And the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. Jeff Eddy wants you to know if your heater's not ready, he is, and he's ready to solve whatever issue you might have. Now, hopefully, we can make everything right as rain with a maintenance call or with a simple visit from Jeff Eddy and one of his qualified techs at Efficient Heating and Cooling. But if that's not the case, if it's time to replace, well, they understand that as well. Jeff Eddy keeps that overhead down. He keeps invoices low. Efficient Heating and Cooling offers financing as well. Because when it comes time, they're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, and they're ready to go to recommend the heating unit that's right for you or the AC that's right for you, depending on the season. Right now, we're thinking about our heaters, and it's time to get it maintenance. If you've not done so, remember that $125 special. There is never a charge over $125 for a residential maintenance call on your heater with Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, and oftentimes it's quite much. It's a lot less than that. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Why not give him a call today? You'll be happy you did. Go to efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's going to be crazy from now until Election Day. It already is pretty insane. A lot of activity going on the presidential race front, a lot of activity going on otherwise. But we don't want to forget some of the things that we've made a commitment to you to continue to cover, to include the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. We've been talking to our man on the ground in Fairview, North Carolina, one of the hardest hit areas, if not the hardest hit area in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, Steve Antle, and we'll get to Steve in moments. Your calls as well, 615-737-9986. Don't forget, you can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line at the same number, 615-737-9986. Some of the headlines today: Steve Bannon is out of jail after, a 4-ish month stint behind bars for contempt of Congress, something that it seems the Democrats never get hammered on. You know, Eric Holder, the former attorney general, was charged with contempt of Congress. He never went to jail. No Democrats ever go to jail. But it seems that the lawfare that exists amongst the political elites in Washington, D.C., that only goes one way. It is only Democrats lashing out using the judicial system against Republicans. I mean, Donald Trump knows that better than anyone, right? It doesn't seem to go the other way, ever. Never seems to go the other way. Desperation has begun to set in. We have a new update and a new report for you later on today. We also have John Rich stopping by at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Excited about that. And right now, our man in Fairview, North Carolina, Steve Antle, joins us to give us an update as to what is going on over there in the aftermath of Helene. Steve, how long has it been since Helene landed? Has it been a month?
32 days, yeah.
32 days. My goodness gracious. Give us an update, my friend.
Well, just a couple of things. So I guess I'll start out with the Red Cross. So they're still on my list of people I don't like very much. They opened all these shelters and put all these people in these shelters around in western North Carolina, and now they're closing those shelters. And they're closing them fairly well without warning. We're getting the people that I work with, like the network of people that I've been handling the storm with, we're getting calls daily from people that are saying they're closing the shelter. They told us to get out. We have to be out tonight. And so then we're scrambling, trying to find places for them to go, trying to line up campers and motel rooms and, you know, whatever else we can get them. There's one other subject, too, and this touches on the Red Cross as well, but it's more of a general thing. When the storm came through, we had a lot of homeless people that live in Asheville. And the area that got hit the worst in East Asheville just happened to be the area where a lot of the homeless were living. A lot of the homeless encampments were just wiped out. And we lost some of them, you know, were killed as well. So now I'm calling them homeless squared or homeless double, because they were homeless before, now they're homeless again. And so I'm running into issues with the Red Cross in trying to handle these folks, because I've been trying to feed them into Red Cross shelters, because the discussion about homelessness is a whole other issue. But there's still people, and they still technically lost where they were living, in that they can't stay where they were. So they're displaced. So I've been trying to do that, and it's just issue after issue after issue with the Red Cross and the bureaucracy. So, you know.
Wait, so how much? Let me make sure I heard you correctly, Steve. How much notice did they give?
Well, the ones in Marion, they gave them a notice of that day. In other words, we're closing this tonight, and you've got to be out. And they did the same thing in Clyde, North Carolina, which is west of us. And they did the same thing with another one here in Asheville yesterday. So yeah.
Without prior notification, to your knowledge, they're walking in day of, and they're telling people who did not have a home before the storm, or for whatever reason they continue to rely on these resources. I understand that those resources aren't infinite. I think you understand that as well. But they're only giving them less than 24-hour notice?
Well, that, and we're just 30 days out from this, and this is a huge event here. I mean, it's a huge event, period. It's not it's not your typical disaster. And, you know, to be barely a month out and already start to be closing shelters after what we've been through, I mean, we're just now getting things stabilized, if you will. And, you know, so myself and a bunch of our other people have reached out, obviously, to the Red Cross, and we've gotten phone numbers, we've talked to the directors, and here's the thing, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. It's like that guy, the old cartoon where you have a guy and he's pointing both directions and he said they did it. Well,
right.
that's what's happening. The Red Cross says it's the local government officials that are telling them to close these shelters. The local government officials are saying, no, it's on the Red Cross. So we cannot get a straight answer out of anybody as to why this is happening. But anyway, so that's something, that's, I guess, the current thing that I've been dealing with. And then I wanted to take just a minute and talk about how this has affected me. So I've run hot for 30 days straight, 14, 16-hour days, sometimes longer, day in and day out, handling everything that needs to be handled. And so I've been trying, I'm to the point where I have to start working again. I have to go back into the regular world. And I've been trying to do that, and I'm struggling with it. I'm not only struggling with letting go of what I have to do for the community, and I'm not letting go completely. I'm just trying to, ease my way out. But the community doesn't want to let me go either. So we're at this struggle where, I'm having to start working, and I'm still having to deal with the hurricane stuff, and it's a lot. And I find I got a lot of emotions behind it. I also got a lot of emotions behind dealing with people back in the regular world, in the normal course of things. And it's just odd how, to me, now this is my perspective, it's odd to me how other people can just go about their normal existence. And I was trying to think of a way to equate it, and I don't want to equate soldiers going off to war with what we've gone through, because that's a whole other level of bad. But it's the same. I think it's a related thing emotionally. You've dealt with this day after day after day for 30 days, and now you come back to the real world, and you just don't understand why these normal people can do that. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. I can't begin to understand what you've been through, Steve, or what the people of Fairview have been through. I would relate it to something along the lines of 9/11, and not that we saw that level of death, but you saw a lot of death and destruction, and it's a natural disaster. But what I mean by that is to say this, that I talked to people who were directly impacted, who lost loved ones on 9/11 5 years later, and they didn't understand how and why people could have moved on. Right? So the closer you are to an impact zone in any natural disaster or any personal tragedy or any community tragedy, the more you're going to be impacted not only physically, but mentally and psychologically. And so, I mean, I understand where you are, but I also understand that in Nashville, lives have moved on, which is why we have you on. Because I want to remind Nashville, I want to remind the surrounding communities that in East Tennessee and in West North Carolina, there are still lives that are being pieced back together 32 days later. But it's the natural way. In my opinion, it's the natural way of things. The closer you are to an event, the harder it is to see that event scab over and heal. But you have to have that. Right. A scab is a rough thing to go through on the body. But you have to have it in order for healing to begin. But the scarring will always be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It really impacted me. We did a hot air balloon event down in Shelby the other morning, and it was the first time that I'd left Western North Carolina except for a quick run to the warehouse one day in Greenville. And I'm down there in Shelby, and I'm down in a normal environment. Everything is normal. And then I go back home and I go back to Fairview, and you're right back in the abnormal. So I guess the the shock of the two, you know, here I am out in the regular world type thing. So, you know, that's just stuff I have to work through. My biggest struggle right now is trying to find a balance between trying to do what I have to do to take care of our family and trying to continue to do the things that
I would also say that you're not, I mean, and you and I have talked about this too, and I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to try to help heal those emotional and psychological scars, but I mean, you're defined by the days after the event. North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia, America, we will define ourselves in how we react to the event, not by the event itself. That's always been the case in my life experience. And there are so many good people that, I understand that if you're in the epicenter of it, you get a little bit frustrated. I mean, hell, the reason that I've had you on as many times as I have, Steve, is that I know that lives have moved on in Nashville. And that's easy to do because our life is normal over here. I mean, we never lost power. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and that's not to dismiss or be dismissive of what happened to you. That's just the way the world works. And you know that. But, I mean, but it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to – I can understand that it's hard to swallow it when you're having to live both of those lives simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's, you know, that's been – and I really didn't expect to feel that way. I just thought, well, okay, it's time to start doing regular work again. And, you know, but, you know, that was on my mind, and I thought I'd share it with you.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
I mean, you're not my therapist, but, you know.
Well, you know.
You know stuff.
I'll do what I can. I do what I can.
Anyway,
well, I mean, what else? I mean, obviously, I encourage people to find you. And by the way, I want to offer you some kudos because several people, and I didn't forward this information to you because I've personally vetted you, and you and I have spoken on and off air, and I know that you're doing God's work over there. But some have said, hey, you know, how do you know this Steve Antle guy is not, you know, pocketing some of the money or this and that? And you get it. I mean, you understand people are naturally suspicious.
Oh, yeah.
But your level of receipt keeping and accounting that you have kept online, that you share with people on your Facebook page, Steve Antle, A-N-T-L-E, thank you. I didn't ask you to do that. Nobody asked you to do that. You did it because you want to make sure that people know that every dollar that they give through you to Fairview and the surrounding communities is going to a good place. And I appreciate you doing that.
Well, I just thought it was only fair. People are, you know, they're giving up their hard-earned money, and I just wanted them to know what we were spending it on and that we're keeping track of things. And, you know, I half the people that donated to me, I don't know them. I mean, I don't know them at all. So social media is really the only way I have the ability to, you know, to do that. So
well, and I sometimes I think we throw this around a little much, but in this case, I think it needs to be said, Steve. I mean, you lived through a major natural disaster that took lives and permanently altered people. You're going through, I mean, you were a police officer for years. You know this. You're going through a little bit of PTSD probably.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you are. I mean, and that's okay. But you're exhausted and you're dealing with victims every day. But you also, I mean, I can't imagine that range of emotion, right? You deal with victims, people that have lost every material possession in their lives. They're just trying to pick their lives back up, whatever those material possessions are. You're dealing with people that are being told, hey, by the way, you've stayed in this shelter for the last 28 days, but, oh, you need to get out tonight and find another place to stay. And then you go, and an hour later, you're dealing with people that are just going about their lives like nothing ever happened. That has to be a difficult emotional roller coaster. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I appreciate your listeners and you and everything that Nashville has done because I think it was an important thing reaching out to my old community there. And I really, you know, we just felt so isolated at the beginning, and I think I told you that in the first time we talked on air about this, that we just felt, you know, isolated, and I was like, who can I talk to that I know that will get the word out on what is going on here, and you're the first person that came to mind. So I appreciate you and Bell, working with me.
Well, listen, brother, we're here for you, whatever you need, and I encourage people to go check you out on Facebook, Steve Antle, spell Antle, A-N-T-L-E,
Just like Mickey Mantle without the M.
Without the M, and if you want to, and beware of the shenanigans that go on. Somebody was trying to impersonate you on Venmo. Is that right?
There was a Venmo account that popped up, and it was exactly like mine, except the first name was not capitalized, and there was an underscore after my last name. But they used the same picture, but they had cropped it, so even the picture looked slightly different in size. And somebody pointed it out to me because they were contacting me to make sure it was actually me. And they sent me the screenshot. And so I reposted about that. And I contacted Venmo and, so people are,
Thank you for everything, Steve. We'll keep up with you. Call us anytime, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Very good. Yes, sir. There's Steve Antle. It feels like he's going through a little bit of what, soldiers, I'm not comparing the two, but there are connective tissues between what he went through from a natural disaster standpoint and what soldiers go through when they come back home, especially, and they see people just going about their daily lives doing the things that they fought to protect. Well, Steve's going through a little bit of that too, and our heart goes out to him. I want to give him a big radio hug. It's 54 after the hour on Super Talk.
1 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes, and right now I've got some sad entertainment news. The actress known for classic roles in Young Frankenstein, Tootsie, and Mr. Mom has passed away. She was also a background dancer in Elvis Presley movies. Terry Garr died today of multiple sclerosis. Her publicist says she was surrounded by family and friends. Terry Garr was 79. Election 2024, as former President Trump was heading out to rally voters in Pennsylvania today, he held a campaign-style event at Mar-a-Lago.
Very simply, Kamala Harris is not fit to be your president. We can't have it happen. We can't have it happen. We're going to make this country strong again. We're going to make it great again. We're going to be respected again.
Vice President Harris tonight in Washington, D.C. will give what the campaign is calling her closing argument speech with the White House as her backdrop. Harris expected to urge voters to turn the page on Trump and pledge to put country over party. Today is the last day to request an absentee ballot in Tennessee, and if you were planning on casting your ballot by mail this year, you better get moving. According to the U.S. Postal Service, they're recommending you get your mail-in ballot in the mail at least a week before Election Day, which is, of course, today. And right now in Tennessee, a group of hemp growers is trying to raise enough money to sue the State Department of Agriculture to stop a new rule from taking effect, which the industry says will kill it. The rule that goes into effect December 26 will make flower illegal because once you put fire to it to smoke it, the THC that gets you high goes above the 0.3 allowable limit. The Tennessee Growers Coalition started raising money to file a lawsuit against the TDA over the THCA ban. Since October 1st, they've raised $10,200 toward their goal of $60,000. Another casual dining chain restaurant closing some of its locations. TGI Fridays says it will focus on retooling its brand and close 50 locations in states like California and New Jersey.
While grocery prices are up around 1% in the past year, the cost of dining out has increased nearly 4%, and that is also why we've seen some of these casual restaurants chains like Chili's offering deals and promotions to win customers back.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome back. Episode 682 in progress. Launched for Trump Day 241. I've been growing this stuff out for 241 days in anticipation of a Donald Trump victory on November 5th, and I've already announced if he wins, I'm just carrying it over until Inauguration Day, so there you go. 7 days to go, friends. I wish Election Day were today, but it is not. We've got lots to get to in these 7 days and lots to get to in this hour. A very special hour on the Matt Murphy Show as we have welcomed back to the show. Now, J.K. Brister from U.S. Pest is in the house, and we're going to talk to J.K. a little bit later on. Right now, we are pleased to be joined by the one and only John Rich in studio. I begged of John, I said on a couple of occasions via text, you got to come in. People want to hear from you. He's already told me, he was giving me the business. He's already told me the number of interviews that he's turned down, but he didn't turn us down because he loves it's not because he loves me. It's because he loves you. John Rich is in the house.
I do, and it's always good to be with you. I do ignore a lot of your texts, thinking that maybe he'll forget that he asked me that. But after the third one, I went, yeah, no, he's staying on it, so I'll say yes. But you've always been good to me. When there's stuff to talk about, you always let me come on, and I appreciate you.
Well, I mean, buzzed texting is drunk texting. That's what I try to tell people, even to John Rich. By the way, J.K. mentioned this. Your video and your song Revelation has gone like gangbusters. Congratulations. Outside of the fact that, you know what, our typical radio stations won't play it. Outside of the fact that you won't hear about it on your quote-unquote legacy or mainstream media. But we talk about it. We've played it on our show, and people have noticed. And congratulations on that song, because that's a song with a strong message about what really matters in this world.
I appreciate you saying that, and thank you for playing it when you did. That ended up turning into an interview with Tucker Carlson, which I think is over 10 million views at this point. And then Dr. Jordan Peterson reached out, who I'd never met before, and he had seen the Tucker interview, and he said, I want to talk to John about it. So I went on his show, many millions more, and then Russell Brand saw that. Russell Brand, who I also didn't know, hits me up and says, hey, I want you to come on my show, and I want to talk about Revelation and what the Bible says about what's going on. So it wound up being beyond anything I could have ever thought was possible. What it tells you is that the vast majority of humanity, regardless of their politics, whether they're saved, lost, they know something bigger's happening than what they're seeing on the TV. They just know it. You can feel it in their spirit. Their spirit is rattled. Their soul is rattled. And that song, Revelation, talks about that. It's talking about what's happening just on the other side of what you can't see. What's the real war? What's that spiritual war happening? So I was tasked by the boss to write that and put it out. It was a lot of uncomfortable interviews because that subject matter is not something you normally go on and talk about. I'm not a preacher. I'm not anything like that. I'm a country songwriter with this song, but I'm glad it happened. And anybody that hasn't heard it, you can find it real easy. Just type in John Rich Revelation. You can find it.
It occurs to me, as you're talking about that, and you mentioned Russell Brand, when COVID-19 was going down, and we lost so much during COVID-19, for those of us who are of faith, at least I do. I don't know if anybody else does this, but you just kind of in your quiet times you wonder I don't know what you got going on, but I hope it's something good. I hope I understand it down the road. And some of the sliver of silver lining behind the awfulness that was COVID, the evil that was COVID, I think comes out in those revelations, pardon the expression, from people who say, I was blind. I was blind to the ways of our government. I was blind to the ways of the inner workings of the deep state. I was blind to what goes on in shadows. Russell Brand is one of those guys. I've followed his career, and he was lost for a long time, and we all are to a certain degree. I'm not judging, but he has opened his eyes to how far the deep state will go to control us. And he is one of thousands, if not millions, of people that are wide awake in terms of taking our liberties back, taking our freedoms back, making sure that we have a voice a week from now and a month from now and 2 years and 5 years and 10 years while we're on this earth to chart a destiny for our children, our grandchildren, and all of humanity, really.
Well, I was one of those people that I would say was blind. When COVID hit, I think that was the beginning of what will be looked back in history as the beginning of the Great Awakening for the American people. Do you recall the beginning of COVID? I know we were on spring break with my kids down in Panama City Beach, and it hit the news. And the first thing they showed us back then, everybody listening, see if you can remember these images. They were showing us video of Chinese people in hazmat suits driving around the streets of the big cities in China, and people literally falling over dead in the road from, quote, COVID-19. Then they were loading those bodies on trucks and hauling them out. Remember, they were spraying down the streets, hazmat suits. That's the first thing we ever saw about what we thought COVID was that. I mean, you never saw it again, did you? You only saw it in the beginning. And so what that did is it scared Americans so much that we're spraying down our UPS packages, we're spraying down our bags of groceries. It scared, including my family, because it looked totally real. The whole thing, that beginning of that whole roll was nothing but propaganda. Now that we've lived through that and seen it, I believe that was the beginning of the Great Awakening. It made people question everything about the government. I used to be the guy, probably like a lot of people listening, that if a politician had an R next to their name, they're one of the good guys.
Yep.
I just took it for granted. She's good, he's good, or otherwise he wouldn't be a Republican. I can support them. I'll donate to them. I'll raise money for them. I get asked that a lot, to raise money for people. And then as time rolls by, you start to find out, hang on a minute. These Republicans, a bunch of them are in the back rooms slicing and dicing the American people into confetti with the Democrats. They fight on TV, and then they go in the back room and they cut us up. I came to that realization. So I started being very careful as to who I would support, raise money for, or align with at all. And I think a lot of Americans are in that position now where their eyes are wide open and we're walking into an election now.
I'll give you another example, and I think it's part of the reason that Trump is such a danger to so many, our southern border. And I'm not casting aspersions about any past behavior. That's not what I'm here to do. But a lot of I call them Chamber of Commerce Republicans, didn't want to do anything about the southern border because either they or their business partners or their buddies took advantage of very, very cheap labor for a long time in a lot of industry. And y'all know exactly the industries I'm talking about. And when you start limiting that ability to utilize that cheap labor, they're going to have to pay a little bit more. Ultimately, maybe we have to pay a little bit more. But the bottom line is they allowed that to happen. I remember when I was in Alabama in 2007 and Bush was president and they tried to work that amnesty deal. And the Republicans were in on it. And Jeff Sessions, senator from Alabama, single-handedly stopped it in the Senate. And eventually Americans got wise. Rush Limbaugh picked up on it, and they started mailing bricks to the Congress of the United States of America in 2007 and into 2008, saying if you don't have because they said they didn't have the money to build the wall. And the message was, if you don't have the money here's a brick. There's one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Let's build a wall. This was back in 2008. And Trump comes in 2016 and represents, I think, a continuation of that movement, scaring the hell out of some Republicans that kind of like it. And I mean, we could name names, but there's a bunch of them that kind of like the way that it is in Washington, D.C. and like the way that it is on the farmland and in the construction zones where they get the cheap labor.
I saw Trump today said that when he becomes president, he is going to seize the assets of the cartels and all the traffickers, and he's going to liquidate their assets and give that as aid to all the families who have lost people.
That's so good.
Due to the crimes and death that has been rained down upon them.
That's exactly right.
Those are he's speaking the language of the common people. I think that's why our problems. I said this to you a while back, Matt, several months back. We were talking about what it's gonna be like, and I said at some point, the collective pain that Americans are going to experience is going to override and supersede their political differences. We're all going to have the same problem. The border is not a Republican or Democrat problem. It's everybody's problem. Inflation, same thing. You could go down the list where the problems and the pain has now reached a level that you've got people who would never consider voting for a Republican looking at Trump going, I think he's the only guy that can fix it. The house is on fire, and he's the only one holding a fire extinguisher. We should probably tap him on the shoulder. I think that's what we're looking at.
You don't talk about this a lot because every time I talk about you, you tell me it's not about you. But you've taken a stand just for your values and your beliefs and for what you believe most Americans believe in as well. And it's caused you a lot of heartache in your life, in your career, hasn't it?
Oh, sure. But I sleep well.
Yeah, you sleep at night. You get down on your knees, talk to the big fella.
I sleep
it's
just
all
fine,
good.
and my 2 teenage sons have watched me and continue to watch me fist fight with Republicans sometimes in our own state, which you saw me do that. We lost, but still, the fight needed to be brought.
That fight's not over yet.
We needed to highlight things that were happening in our state. With
I'm still fighting that fight,
was
Rich.
Not good.
I'm still
things that are
fighting it.
not right. People that were lying to us. So my 2 sons, I look at my role now as, well, if it's this bad right now, what's it going to be like when they're in their 20s and 30s? And I'm the blueprint, me and their mother, we're the blueprint for how they're going to probably take it. So if Dad was the guy that would just roll over and keep taking the check to keep his mouth shut, that's probably what they're going to do too. Do we have a good future in America if that's the way our young people grow up? I don't think so. Listen, we stand on the shoulders of many, many millions of people throughout the history of our country who were willing to do whatever it took to keep life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a thing in this country. There's hundreds of thousands of bodies buried all over the planet that fought to keep life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And there's still people today willing to do it. And now I think a lot of the citizenry now is realizing that what Reagan said, that freedom is not inherited, it's one generation away from you losing it. That's coming to fruition right now. People are taking note.
Well, and he also said, and I'm paraphrasing him, that, as we are just one generation away, it takes an awareness from liberty-loving people, from people that understand that sovereignty means something every single time we go to the ballot box in order to save this. Because the natural predisposition is for government to take power, right? I don't want to get too philosophical, but it's true. I mean, that's the way that it's happened throughout the course of human history, that even if you have a sliver of freedom and liberty, that the entities, the powers that be that want the power and control over you, they're going to try to take that away. And as they try to take that away, they're giving you goodies on the side. Mm-hmm. They're basically conning the people into believing that they're the good guys when they're really not. Their aim is, and I believe the Democrats represent this more than anything, but you're right, there are Republicans too. Their aim is power and control. And if they need to feed you bread and show you circuses, they'll do it.
Yeah, the Constitution was not written to protect the government from the people.
Right.
It was written to protect the people from the government. I mean, where if it gets to the point where they're tyrannical, the people have a right to push back. And that's a pesky little thing for a lot of people. The old Constitution of the United States, man, if they could just get rid of that, they could do it exactly how they want to.
Well, and the same people that would love to get rid of it, I played this little thought experiment last week. Like they're naming names, they're calling names, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I mean, it's all they've got, right? She's got no plan.
Oh, that everybody's a Nazi?
Everybody's a Nazi, everybody's a fascist. And they've been calling Trump a fascist since he came down the escalator in 2015. And last week I said, even if I grant you, let's grant that in his mind he wants to be a dictator. I'm going to give you that. I don't believe it's true, but I'll give you that. He wants to be an authoritarian. How the hell does he tell me functionally how he makes that happen? He gets elected. What's he going to do? Is he going to go to Congress? I mean, we have this little thing called the Constitution of the United States of America that was designed to prevent any one individual from being able to do that in the course of our history. You would have to blow up the Constitution. These folks on the left have such an ill appreciation for the document. Maybe they haven't read it. Maybe they haven't. They just dismiss it. The document and the people prevent any one man who even has those designs from being able to accomplish the task.
If Trump was going to be a dictator, he would have done it the first time.
Exactly.
There's your sentence. I mean, it's not like we have to wonder what Trump's going to be like if he's president of the United States. We just had 4 years. We know exactly what he's like when he's president of the United States. Was he a tyrant or a dictator to anyone? No. You know, I think on the Republican side, it's interesting how over the decades, the Democrats used to be the anti-war crew. They were the ones that were sticking the roses in the rifles, flowers in the barrels of the rifles of the Vietnam soldiers. Very famous picture. They were the anti-war. It was the Bob Dylans of the world writing those songs, and good for them. They actually went a long way to stop that war. But over time, it's flipped where now you've got the Republican war hawks out here that they are bloodthirsty for another war. They want one so bad, and I tell you what, Republicans now are like, one reason I like Trump is because he didn't start any new wars.
That's exactly right.
The only president in the course of about 4 or 5 in a row that did not start a new war, only Trump. And when he comes out and says, I can bring peace back to these situations very rapidly, I believe he probably can.
Well, and Trump is smart enough to understand that Vladimir Putin wants a way out. I think Vladimir Putin I think he will end the Ukrainian war when he's president of the United States, because Vladimir Putin did not anticipate what he got, and he wants a way out, but he needs to save face with his people, and he needs somebody that's willing to find him a way out while getting him out of that conflict, and I think that Donald Trump would be able to do it. I want to share this real quick before I have to go to break. Tell John that he is a preacher, just a different kind of preacher. I love that he's an unashamed Christian that values God over money and is willing to use his platform for good. We have a lot of Christian vision in our music that he could help if he's interested. And then Caden goes on to talk to you about possibly contacting him. But I appreciate that from Caden, who said, and I agree with him. It's true.
Very kind.
We don't have enough of that in our. But the other on the other side, they've got we got John Rich on our side. They got Lizzo wanting us to be more like Detroit.
Yeah.
So
I don't think she knew what that meant.
I don't think. I said at the time, I posted up on my ex, and I was like, I don't think this landed the way she intended it to land. That we want America to be like Detroit.
Again, it's the tidal wave of statements like that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that still think that way, that are blind as a bat. One of my friends the other day, I could not believe what he said on social media, but he went off on it, and I went, wow. I mean, of all people, I knew he was a liberal, but I thought, yeah, but he's got some sense, I didn't know how he's going to maybe vote, but when he got through with his rant, I said, this guy hasn't learned anything this entire time. I'm sure we all know people like that.
And there, I use the example often of, and people get mad at me when I use it, but Bill Maher is an example of a liberal that I have a certain level of respect for, because Bill Maher is what he is. He defends what he is. He's willing to talk to people that disagree with him. He's willing to give them an opportunity to speak back to him. Now, I think he's wrong 80% of the time, but he's not afraid to tackle his own on the Israel situation. He is willing to go after people on the Israel situation and how far off the reservation they've gotten. Those people I can handle. These lemmings that just parrot whatever the last thing they heard on MSNBC, I can't handle it. It's 24 after the hour. John Rich is in with us. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be back in a moment. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and, one of the questions that I get outside of the election is, how can we get into the conservative fight otherwise? It's critical to know where your money goes, and we talk about this often. Make sure you understand where your dollar goes after you spend it. If you're working with a company that spends on liberal causes, you're probably doing it wrong, and I've got an idea for you. Coin, COIGN.com, is America's conservative credit card. They do not give to woke liberal agendas. They fight the liberal agenda. Apply now at coin.com. That's COIGN.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Coin.
J.D. Vance on the campaign trail in Michigan. Hear what he has to say about illegal immigration and how it's making the American dream of buying a home unaffordable. We'll tell you about it at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It's 28 minutes after the hour, a couple of minutes before we get into the news. John Rich in studio with us. Happy to have John talking about the election that's coming up in 7 days. You know, you and I were talking right before we came on air about the 7 days that we have to go. I wish the election were today. I feel like everything's baked in. Outside of the cheating, the possibility of cheating in some of these battleground states, I just feel like people that get it, that know, that understand what's at stake at this election, that they are clear thinkers when it comes to what they need to do.
Are you trying to say you don't believe there's such a thing as an undecided voter?
I mean, where are they?
Where are they? I put out a post this morning on X. I still call it Twitter. The first thing in the morning is about 5:20 this morning. I'm up early every day, and I said, at this point, if you still consider yourself a, quote, undecided voter, you probably eat Tide Pods from time to time. I mean, that's how ridiculous it is.
Well, they look like candy, John.
Well, I know they look tasty. No, I'm with you. I think that's not even a thing. I don't think there's anybody on the fence between what they're going to do.
I mean, right? I mean, as I don't know a lot of Kamala. I mean, I guess maybe I do. They don't talk to me about it. I mean, perhaps they shy away from telling me that they're Kamala voters. I don't feel like I know a lot of Kamala voters. I'm sure they're out there. And you know what? If you want to own that, fine, own it. I don't know what the woman believes in, and I don't think she does it outside. And I did this thought experiment last week on the show. Outside of abortion on demand, and she has been consistent on that issue, that she believes that women should be able to have abortion on demand up until the point of birth. And if that's your thing, then God bless. Literally, I mean, God bless you. I wish you well, and I hope you get the Lord in your life. But outside of that, I don't know what she stands for.
She stands for whatever she needs to stand for at the time to try to get elected. That's it. But it's so blatantly obvious now. I mean, over and over, she won't answer the questions. So I know Trump. I know the people in his campaign. I know his internal pollsters. I know John McLaughlin. I know those people. Like, personally know them. And they say that, for instance, the black vote in America, they said don't be surprised if it lands close to 40%. 40.
40?
He said it is absolutely north of 30. Do not be surprised if it hits 40%, which I think in 2020 Trump was at like 11 or something like that. So the question is, why is that happening? Well, it goes back to what I said earlier and what I said many months ago, that as the level of pain increases, people only have a certain tolerance at some point. When they say, well, I've always voted Democrat. My daddy voted that way, my grandpa voted that way. But then they're seeing their own neighborhood come under attack, come under assault. They're going, we're picking between gas and groceries at this point. It wasn't like that under Trump. I always vote Democrat, but we can't sustain this. Okay, uncle, the pain, I have reached my tolerance. I'm voting for Trump. Maybe he can flip it. And that's something like the human condition. It's always been the same way. We just won't listen. Or we won't think through something and make a logical decision. It's like telling your son, hey, when he's 5, don't touch the stove, kid. It'll burn your hand. He does not believe you until he actually touches the stove and burns his hand one time. But then he'll never touch it again.
It reminds me of a story my grandpa, God bless him, my pa told me. He said a guy's walking down the street, and he looks down an alleyway, and there's this little kid, and this kid is just hitting his head against the brick wall in the alleyway, just hitting his head against the brick wall. And the guy runs over to him trying to help him, and he grabs him. And he says, son, what are you doing? Why do you keep hitting your head against that brick wall? And the kid says, because it feels so good when I stop.
Right, exactly. Right.
We'll be back in a moment. News coming up. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Election 2024. The presidential campaign's heating up today. Here's GOP Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance in Michigan.
If you allow homes that ought by right go to American citizens go to illegal aliens, then we are never going to make it affordable for our young people to buy a home.
And Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz in Georgia.
Keep in mind, 4 years ago, we had lost 2.7 million jobs. Unemployment had shot way up. Supply chains were devastated because Donald Trump botched the pandemic response.
Former President Trump's in Pennsylvania today. Vice President Harris in D.C. tonight with the White House as the backdrop. Right now in Tennessee, hemp growers and retailers trying to raise money to sue the State Department of Agriculture to block rules that growers and retailers say is going to devastate the industry and hurt their customers.
We have so many senior citizens and people in the community that rely on the products for relief, whether it's for pain or anxieties or things like that would just, they're either going to have to turn to the black market or just suffer.
Or drive across state lines.
That's Jesse Hutcherson, the CEO and co-owner of Green Star THC in Fairview, telling News 2 around 80% of the products he manufactures and sells will become illegal when these new rules go into effect December 26th. Entertainment news. Terry Garr, the quirky comedy actor who rose from background dancer in Elvis Presley movies to co-star of such favorites as Young Frankenstein and Tootsie, has died. She was 79. Garr died today of multiple sclerosis, surrounded by family and friends, according to her publicist. Garr had battled other health problems in recent years, underwent an operation in January of 2007 to repair an aneurysm. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 140. One more good segment with our man John Rich. He's in studio with us talking about the upcoming election and America in general. Good to catch up with John and everything he's doing for this country. We so appreciate him. I wanted to mention Flagstock. Because you what a wonderful event that turned out to. I mean, I got the chance to watch. What a fabulous thing that you guys did for those young men in Chapel Hill.
It turned out really good. So, those were the boys at University of North Carolina that saved the flag, kept the flag from hitting the ground. And I thought, we need to recognize these guys because young people in America, and I'm guilty of it too, get painted with this broad brush.
And we crap on them a lot.
Yeah,
we honestly
all the
do.
time.
We do.
Oh, they're all worthless. They all drink soy lattes.
They're all woke. And
They're living in their parents' basement and that blah, blah. And that's just not true. There's millions of young people in this country that they want exactly what we want. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. They serve in the military. They become police and fire. And they're great kids running around. So we want to do something cool for them. So we had a whole bunch of artists come out there, including Lee Greenwood, to cap the whole thing off and did a concert for him, did a live stream for him, fireworks show, the whole deal. And it was honestly one of the highlights of my year to be able to play for those guys.
While we're talking a little about you, I want to ask you, how did didn't your dad just recently get a car? When did that happen? When that didn't you get it? It was a Camaro. There was something. I saw something online.
No, it was a 1970 Plymouth Duster. So that was his car as a kid. So anybody out there, you remember your dad talking about when he was in high school?
I just remember a picture of you and your dad next to this
that
car.
Yeah. So my whole life he goes, yeah, well, that car you bought, that car's pretty fast, John, but it ain't as fast as that Duster was back in the day, 1970. And that thing would hit a quarter mile at 11.8 and blah, blah, all this stuff. And I'm going,
I guess
he talked about it all the time. And so when he turned 70, I started trying to find not the car he owned, but that car.
Yeah.
And everyone I find was a junker, rusted out. They changed the engine. It wasn't factory, something wrong with it. So I called Richard Petty, who's a man I've gotten to be friends with because he's the ultimate Mopar guy, Mr. Mopar. He goes, hey, John boy. I said, Mr. Richard, I need you to help me find a car. He goes, what are you looking for? So I told him. And he said, let Kyle help you with that, Kyle Petty.
Yeah.
So Kyle says, yeah, man, let me start looking around. And they found one down in Florida that was all original, looks like a Matchbox car. Every single spec on it was exactly like what my dad had. And I bought the car sight unseen, got shipped up to Nashville. I kept it in a garage for 4 months, hiding this car from my dad. And when he turned 70,
that's cool.
Rolled the car out to him, and he bawled his eyes out.
That's cool.
I mean, and he drives it every day.
Like you got video of the
That's his daily drive.
Does he have video of the presentation?
Oh yeah, no. See, and I must have saw a retweet or something about it because this was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah,
it was a couple
years ago. Yeah,
and I saw a picture with you. I think it's at your place here in Nash. Yeah. With your dad and the Duster.
Yep.
And I told myself to ask you about it because that's pretty cool.
My dad's a preacher. He preached in prisons, street preached. If he wasn't a church, it was a tiny, tiny church with 30, 40 people in it. There was never any income. So my dad, 4 kids, double wide trailer, Amarillo, Texas. He's doing every job you can imagine. He was a night watchman at Amarillo National Bank. He was slopping hogs on the weekend at the neighbor's hog farm, giving guitar lessons, detailing cars, selling used cars, you name it, all the time. 180 to 100 hours a week this guy's working and driving a station wagon. And so even though we didn't have a lot of extra, we didn't go without food. We didn't go without clothes. I went to a good school. He took care of business and made sure we all got through all that. So as I did well in my life, I look back at that and had so much thankfulness and respect for what that man did. I said, I got to give him his car back.
That's good.
The one thing I could do for him would be to give him his car back. The one thing he talks about all the time. So that's why that was such a big deal. Not just because it's a cool car, but it gave him back really the best times of his life when he was a kid.
Oh, yeah. And the memories that were made.
Yeah. And now I get to ride in the car with him and let him
and make new memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Let him burn rubber down the road in Cheatham County, and tear it up.
You get a lot of street cred from with your Mopar reference, by the way, on the text line. Everybody loves that Mopar reference.
They know what's up.
By the way, 9513, I don't know his name, says, please tell John how much I enjoy playing at his bar downtown and appreciate how they treat the musicians. Not every place on Broadway takes care of their bands. Good for you.
Well, hey, thanks for playing there, Redneck Riviera. We do. I think because I own the place and I am a musician and I have been kicked around in my career as well. Yeah, without great musicians, you don't really have a Broadway. I mean, that's why they come. So we take very good care of our musicians and all of our staff. When COVID hit and everything got shut down, before the government was saying, "Hey, we'll give you payments or whatever for your employees," that went on for like 6 or 7 months with nothing coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We kept paying our people. We went in the hole several $100,000 just keeping our people paid. And you know what happened when everything opened back up? We didn't lose one employee. Everybody stayed. We had our team in place, and they're still there. We have virtually no turnover in a part of Nashville that has turnover by the week. Right. People coming in and out. Our people have stayed.
Are you? It occurs to me to ask you this question. Redneck Riviera gets brought up, and I love your place down there. There are a few of them are my favorites, and if anybody that knows me knows how much I appreciate old school country music and old school honky tonks, you can probably pick out the few favorites. Redneck Riviera, Roberts is still pretty good. Oh, yeah. The old school joints.
Yeah.
I'm partial to bootleggers across the street from you too.
Yeah,
but
I like
whatever.
Legends. I like Legends Corner too.
Legends Corner's good.
Rubel Sanderson, man, he's a classic.
But I don't begrudge the bigger places, the more modern places. Those are all good too. You look down there from what it was when you first opened Redneck Riviera. It's changed a lot. How long has it been open?
2018, so not that 6 years.
But
that was
still.
Mike's. That was Mike's Ice Cream. That
was an ice cream joint.
It was an ice cream joint, and then Mike moved up on 2nd Avenue, took his business up there. But yeah, it's insane what has happened down there, and it just continues to get bigger.
I mean, I know there's a lot of. Does it worry you at all where it's going?
Where what's going?
The Broadway, the lower broad action. Does it? Because it comes. The good brings. Bad. I mean, even in my 3 years here, it seems that it's a slightly harder edge than it has been in the past.
I think the tourism aspect of it is huge. I mean, obviously, you got people from all over the U.S. coming in. I wish our mayor was more hands-on with...
Attentive? Is that a good word?
Just hands-on and would make some moves about downtown to make it safer down there. There's constantly people... you can obviously tell you see this guy and he's barking at the moon and he's there every single night and he's walking up to people, women and kids, they got kids in strollers.
Right.
We need to get anybody that looks dangerous away from that part of town.
It's a careful balance.
Yeah, I wish you'd put a little more focus on that.
Any predictions for, I hate to ask you this obvious question, but I got you here. 7 days from now, Election Day.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate?
I don't think we'll have an answer that night. We're already seeing states saying it could take 10 to 13 days to count our votes in Maricopa County. We're already seeing they're already setting it up for that. I think the real red zone that America's going to be looking at is after November 5th and before that inauguration. Mm-hmm. Homeland Security just sent out a message to sheriff departments all over the United States. I know because 3 sheriffs today hit me with screenshots on them, telling them to be on the lookout for MAGA domestic terrorist acts post election.
That's awful specific.
It's very specific. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so,
how about some Antifa? How about being on the lookout for some Antifa?
Yeah, that's not what they said.
Right.
And so I think any American that's paying attention right now, we all anticipate something crippling happening in this country at some point, something that would shut us down, something that would be something we can't imagine. And I know from my friends in active duty military who do a lot of stuff in a lot of places, they said that the playbook is wide open with the bad guys. So many terrorists have come across our border that they're everywhere. They're implanted even in Nashville. They're in Nashville right now. And they said the playbook is so wide open that we really don't know which one they're going to pick or which 5 or 6 they might pick, but we all anticipate they will at some point.
My wife says this from time to time, and I hear it from the listening audience from time to time that, don't worry, God's got this. You've just got to recognize that the God's got a plan on it, and He'll take care of it. But then I'm reminded of and everybody's heard the joke about the flood waters, the flood's coming, and
yeah.
And the truck comes by and says, get in the truck. He says, no, I trust in the Lord. The Lord's got me taken care of. And then the boat comes by and get in the boat. No, I trust it. And then the helicopter comes by and then he dies. He drowns. And he goes to God and he said, God, I've always been a faithful servant. I trusted that you would protect me. And here I am. And he goes, I sent a truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What else did you want me to do? Right.
No, that's right.
Recognize the signs and recognize what we need to do to help ourselves to protect our liberties, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Noah survived the flood because he listened to God, and God said, build a boat. He did not rapture Noah out of the flood. Noah was in the flood.
Yep.
But the same flood that wiped everybody else out raised him to safety, and he started the world over again, started humanity over again. So, no, Christians and people in general need to be paying attention and thinking about what you would do if something really crippling happened in this country, how to take care of yourself and your family.
John, God bless you. We appreciate you so much. I appreciate you spending the time to stop by and talk to Middle Tennessee. I know how much you love your hometown, and I know how much you love your home state. I know how much you love your country, and you do everything you can in your power to protect it and to save it, and we appreciate that.
I'll come in anytime when you text me at least 3 times in a row. I'll be here every time, almost every time.
Here's John Rich, everybody. We got to take a break. We'll be back. JK's going to stop by with us, and we've got another hour to go on The Murphy Show. Hey, friends, you know, I love the fact that J.K. Brister is standing here in studio while I talk good about his company, U.S. Pest. I mean, U.S. Pest is tip-top when it comes to pest control service. And a lot of people think that pest control's over when the wintertime comes. No. Those bugs, those nasties, they want to get inside. They want to figure it out. They want to take what's yours. They're little communists, the roaches, the spiders, the stink bugs, and the rodents. We don't talk mice and rats a lot, but we need to because they're coming in. They're looking for those warm conditions. It's time to get with U.S. Pest. 590-1260. That's 590-1260 for U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com to find out how they can be of service to you. A free inspection is offered when you call U.S. Pest. uspest.com or 590-1260 for U.S. Pest.
All right, checking over in Dixon, or rather Hickman County. In Dixon, we've got a highway that is closed due to an overturned vehicle. This is at Moore Hollow Road, Highway 48 southbound, just north of I-40, closed there. Hear what they're saying on the campaign trail, and Tennessee hemp growers trying to raise enough money to stop new rules they say will devastate their businesses and customers. Coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It's 58 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Before we go to that news break, Mr. Jimmy's been holding on the line. Mr. Jimmy, how are you?
Getting older by the minute.
Older by the second, and you've been waiting for a second, and I appreciate your patience, Mr. Jimmy. It was so good to see you last Sunday. Thank you for letting me come to your place.
Well, thank you for coming by and seeing me.
It was absolutely a pleasure to do it. What's on your mind today?
Well, you call me Mr. Jimmy. I appreciate what do you?
Well, I respect my elders. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the respect, but did I tell you a story about Cheap Jimmy's?
Cheap Jimmy's.
Yeah.
I don't know that you did.
The company that I worked for out in California was the customer company. That was their name, but they had a name change from Food and Liquors. They went to cheaper stores, and they put the manager's name like in the front, like John's cheaper, Frank's cheaper, Sam's cheaper, Jimmy's cheaper.
Uh-huh.
I told the owner, Mr. John Roscoe from Chicago, that moved there in 1953, that the store name needs to be in front, so that they put on my store a cheaper Jimmy's. And so after 12 years, I quit because they used me as a store closer. They said they weren't going to sell the stores, but they wound up selling the ones that I was managing to Arabs. And so they wound up closing all the stores.
Hold on, Mr. Jimmy. I got to get to the end of the story on the other side because Bell started playing the music. Blame Bell, not me. It's time for the news. We'll get to the end of the story from Mr. Jimmy, who is now known as Mr. Cheap Jimmy on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Checking traffic again. I want to repeat what's going on over in Hickman County. You've got a highway shut down because of an overturned vehicle. This is going to be at Moore Hollow Road in Hickman County. Highway 48 southbound there just north of I-40. Election 2024, right now on the campaign trail in Michigan, GOP Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance.
The only way we're going to get our country back is if we do what Donald J. Trump has promised, use the United States military against those Mexican drug cartels, and make America safe for American citizens again.
Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz in Georgia.
4 years ago, when he tells you, were things better 4 years ago? Yeah, if you were a billionaire because you got a tax cut. The rest of us got screwed during the deal. That's what happened.
Former President Trump's in Pennsylvania today. Vice President Kamala Harris will rally in front of the White House tonight. And if you're planning to mail in your ballot this year, today's the last day to request one in Tennessee. Sherry Preston tells us.
The U.S. Postal Service has made it pretty clear in this PSA that your ballot should be in the mail by midnight.
For domestic, non-military voters using the mail to return a ballot, we recommend that you mail your completed ballot before Election Day and at least a week before the deadline by which your mail-in ballot must be received by your local election office.
Some states have recommended that your ballot should already be in the mail if you want to make sure your vote is counted on Election Day.
Right now in Tennessee, hemp growers and retailers trying to raise enough money to sue the State Department of Agriculture over rules they say will make the flower illegal devastating the industry and their customers who rely on the product, they say, for pain management, anxiety, other health problems.
I think they would be blown away with the diversity of people that use these products and why they're using it. It's not about getting high. It's about wellness.
That's James Goff, owner of the Sparta Smoke Shop, telling News 2 nobody from TDA's actually said this is what you can do, this is what you can't do going forward. For the last 5 years, Metro Nashville Police Department's been working on creating a cold case website, and today that site is up and running.
Amber Posey is hoping it'll help solve the murder of her daughter Ashanti from 4 years ago.
I know there's somebody out there that knows something. They just need that extra push to come forward.
She says her daughter was driving with a friend when someone shot into their car, killing Ashanti, but no suspect has ever been named. Cold case detective Matthew Filter talking to Channel 4.
When the case turns cold, it can be extremely difficult to solve.
The idea of the website is to give witnesses an alternate way to report what they know about a case without feeling the pressure. The website is nashvillecoldcase.gov. Joan Jones, WTN News.
Actress Terry Garr has died. Her publicist says Garr died of multiple sclerosis. Surrounded by family and friends today, she was 79. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
We talk about USS all the time on the Matt Murphy Show, United Structural Systems. But I want to talk about one specific aspect of what they do today, and it's about your concrete. Is your driveway or your walkway or your sidewalks near or around your home? Do you have cracks in them? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway cracked and sinking, or your porch steps have moved to a certain degree. This is settling. It is natural for the state of Tennessee. Shifting concrete can, however, create a dangerous situation, trip hazards around your home. So if you've got family or friends coming over for the holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas, and you want to spruce up the place, I'm telling you, you need to call USS and ask them about their United Structural Systems polyurethane foam injection. It's the PolyLift system. It pushes a foam into the cracks and fissures, into the open areas. It lifts the concrete back up where it's supposed to be. It's incredible to watch. I've done it at my house in Birmingham, Alabama. I did it in my home, and it was incredible. And thousands of dollars. I saved $10,000 on the cost of what it would have cost me to replace the concrete, and you can see those savings as well. Call USS if this is an issue for you, or if you've noticed cracks, if you've noticed doors sticking or whatnot, and you want a second opinion or a third opinion on the matter. USS is the place to go. USSTN.com or 615-488-7855 for USS, United Structural Systems. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 7 minutes after the hour, already hour number 3. Man, oh man, the days are long, but the weeks and months are short. And we knew we would get here, right? We knew we'd be a week out before you know it. And before you know it, it will be election night. I hope that you're there with us. Election night is brought to you in part by Glock Store, by Paul Winkler, and our presenting sponsor is U.S. Pest. They're bringing you election night coverage on Super Talk 99.7 WTN from the Ag Center in Lebanon, in Wilson County at the fairgrounds. The big Ag Center, and it's like the James Ward Ag Center, I want to say. I believe that's the name. Everybody knows it as the Tennessee building because it has that big old map of Tennessee on the floor, and you can pick the county that you want to sit in when you come out and see us. Action starts at 3 o'clock next Tuesday as Brian Wilson will be broadcasting his entire show out there. The entire gang will get there probably around 6 or so, and we'll be off and running into late into the evening. There will be a lot of fun, a lot of shenanigans. We'll have a good time, and we'll watch as the returns come in. Will we know the night of? Probably not. Most people are suggesting it will be a few days. You know, I don't know when this happened in America. I really don't. I don't know when it happened that we have to wait days and weeks to find out the results of an election. Why is Maricopa County in Arizona, which we believe it to be a red state, Arizona, right? Arizona is going to vote for Donald Trump this time around.
Yep.
The anticipation is. Why does it take them weeks? Why are they saying a month before the election and it's going to take them weeks? All right, we're going to talk about all of that and much, much more. Our good friend sitting in with us is J.K. Brister. J.K. is invited anytime he wants to come by, and I love the fact that you come in and say hello to us and talk a little politics and talk a little about the United States of America. Hey, what's going on?
A lot's going on.
I'll tell you what.
Hey, real quick.
How about this?
J.K., you don't need a reason to come visit him. You can just come hang out with me anytime you want to.
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell you what. Headless over there, I just love spending time with him over there in the control room. It's like NASA in there. It's so awesome. And I still have not violated our agreement, to never put him in a picture or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to do that.
It's okay.
Because he said that I would probably disappear if I did. So,
Well, I don't know. I
want to
don't
make him famous.
I don't know that he would actually show up in photos. If you know what I'm saying.
What? I haven't seen the fangs, but you never know.
I'm not gonna deny that. That could be true.
I know something you don't know. While we're on the subject, I know that he's now dating a girl who's blind.
Oh,
because I've seen her. I've seen pictures of her, and there's only one chance that she's dating him, and she either has low level or no eyesight at all.
Well.
Dude, she's listening right now.
Well, I didn't say she couldn't hear. I said she couldn't see.
I'm about to get a text.
He showed me a picture of his. Can I call her your girlfriend?
I'll ask her if it's okay.
So he shows me a picture, and I was like, "Where did you get this? What is this from? One of those companies that gives you the model shots or whatever."
AI generated.
Yeah, where'd you get that? Yeah.
Hey. I am not. Listen, I'm just joining this conversation. Okay,
I'm not.
He's leading this mule.
JK, this is absolutely normal. He'd be acting like this even if you weren't here.
No, it's great. Okay. Oh, I know. I've been listening.
It's the definition of outkicking your coverage, pal.
You two are just like brothers. Every time I come in here, y'all can just look at each other and I see what you're doing. He's all calm and collected in there. You're all ticked off and red-faced.
I'm always.
I'm joking.
I'm always kicked. I know he's constantly. No, it's his fault. He's constantly ticking me off. He's coming in here messing with cameras.
Yeah, man.
Constantly. Anyway, before we get too deep into it, I got to finish up with Mr. Jimmy.
Go ahead.
God bless Mr. Jimmy. I went to see him out in Shelbyville. And, hey, Mr. Jimmy, I wanted to thank you publicly for something real quick before you finish your story about the Arabs. Okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, we had to do the news up there at the top of the hour. That's what they call it. So I wanted to thank you for my belt buckle. You were so kind. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it, and I'm going to cherish it always, and I thank you for giving me that.
Well, I hope so.
Yes, sir.
That's just for another
that was special for me.
Well, just somebody that appreciates motorcycles and Harleys.
So do you want me to start calling you Cheap Jimmy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I've got tired of working for the company. All they were doing was using me as a closer, building up the business for them to sell it to the Arabs. One time they had a contest, and I increased the sales of my store in Kingsburg $1,000 a day for 30 days, for a whole month.
$1,000 a day for 30 days.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
it's a nice contest.
They wound up having like 2,500 cheaper stores, and then they started in the cigarette business. They made some kind of deal with Marlboro, I think. Then they started putting up cheaper cigarettes. But by then, I got tired of working for them after 12 years, them screwing over me. So then I opened my own little store, and the wholesale house I bought from Mr. Breyer out of Gallo, out of where Gallo is. But anyway, he had 65 convenience stores, and I was buying cigarettes from him. He said that I sold more candy per day. My average was $165 than all of his 65 stores did. And so I used to stand out front. Everybody walking by in the morning would call me, "How you doing, Cheap Jimmy's?" That's what they call me. So I got used to it. I appreciate the mister. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I can go Mr. I can go. I tell you what, we'll compromise, and I'll just call you Mr. Cheap Jimmy. Hey, before I have to say goodbye, you got a little procedure coming up day after tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
You got to be. I mean, that's going to be good. You're going to get that new pacemaker in. It's going to make you feel better.
I hope so.
I do too. What you remember what I told you on Sunday about Halloween?
Yeah.
I told Mr. Jimmy I didn't want him going as a ghost on Halloween.
Well, I hope they don't put no spooks in there.
Well, I'm praying, Mr. Jimmy. I'm praying for you, and if I don't talk to you beforehand, we're thinking about you. And call us after the procedure and let us know how it went. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's in and out. I'll get to go home after.
Okay.
Because all they're going to do is cut some wires and put in a new pacemaker. That's it.
You'll be all good. You'll be right as rain come Friday morning.
It'll be quick. I don't have to spend the night. If they were changing the wires or putting another third wire in there, they would have me spend the night because they might think I might get a blood clot. But this operation will be quick. It's kind of in and out. They'll do the operation. I'll get to go home in a couple of hours.
Well, if we don't talk to you before, you call us tomorrow if you want. But if I don't talk to you before, just let me know if you need anything, Mr. Jimmy. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. It's a good man there.
Yeah,
he's lived a life. Listen, some folks. I just want to be serious for a second.
Yeah.
Some folks suggest. Let me put it this way. The day that I don't take calls from folks like Mr. Jimmy, I'll hang it up and go do something else because that's what America's about. And that man's lived a life. He's 85 years old, I think, almost 86. And he's got stories to tell. And we are losing our old school folks like that.
Right.
And, I know that we grow into it. You and I'll grow into it.
We will.
We'll be Mr. Jimmy one day.
Right.
And I just love him. I hug on him, and God bless you, Mr. Jimmy, for calling us every day. I
Honor
appreciate
and
you.
respect.
And that's amen. And I know it's personal for me because in a lot of ways he reminds me so much of my grandpa.
There's a culture to people like Mr. Jimmy that it's going away.
I agree,
and I don't like it.
I don't either. And he's. I mean, I got to talk to him for about an hour Sunday afternoon, and his one of his daughters was there, and she was just talking, about him and how he's lived his life, and he's been by himself, and I think some folks are stepping in and helping him out. They're doing some things at his house, and I I just appreciate everything about him. And that he represents America. You went out, you got to work, you put your boots on in the morning, you went out, you did your work, and you got home. And that's America.
And you help your neighbors.
And you help your neighbors. That's exactly right.
So I won't dig into it too far, but when Erica and I got engaged and I found our land and we built a house.
Yep.
And we got married on the farm. And then one day I hear this rumbling down on the front of my property. Now, I didn't have a tractor at that time. I didn't have nothing. We had just moved in. And I went down to the front with a weed eater. And I'm talking 6-foot weeds and cleaned up the whole front of my property. My neighbor on the big farm next door, I hear this cluttering and all this racket down on the front. And I come down and there's a 16-foot bat wing and he's cutting the front of my property for me. And I went down there and I said, hey, man, I think you're cutting the wrong property. I don't know what you're doing. We don't do hay here. He goes, no. He said, I saw you out there at that weed eater. That's the best that ever looked in the past 30 years. He said, I thought you kids needed some help.
That's awesome.
And now he's like my brother.
That's right.
And my kids call him Uncle Mike and Aunt Susie. Yeah. And we go to Thanksgiving and Christmas and like we're literally family, but they never say no. And my kids have learned to never say no. Like you got to help people, you know. Some people you can't help.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But
enough of the Kamala Harris.
One thing I want to say about this before we get started. U.S. Fest. It's a beautiful day outside. It's been a beautiful week. Yeah. Man, the wind, the sun, the shine. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I've been collecting I got 7 fig trees on my farm that I planted. People said, you can't grow figs here. I'm getting 100 a day.
Hey, what do you mean you can't grow figs here?
Well, because of the cold. They won't stay. But there's tricks, and I got the tricks. Yeah. So I'll tell you about that later. But bugs, I've always wanted to say this. Wintertime comes, and people think bugs die. Bugs do not die.
Go into your house.
Bugs, they want moisture and warmth and darkness, right? Uh-huh. So they go in through weep holes. They go through in things, and they get in the air spaces between your wall and the brick, things like that, and they go up in there, and then they find ways in through the wiring and through all that. And you get these ladybug explosions. You get spiders. You get all this stuff. You even get wasps. Mm-hmm. And you're walking in your house one day and there's a wasp on the curtain, and you're like, with the ladybug,
how'd that get in here?
Like, how'd that wasp? Well, they're coming through holes you can't see. And so it's very important, and I'm going to tell everybody in Tennessee and everybody in every other state that's listening to this, keep your pest control through the winter because it's very important, because we switch from a liquid treatment to winter treatment to keep the barrier up. We dust the weep holes. We put granulars out instead of liquid because it'll freeze. It'll do stuff. And so there's a lot of technology that we use in the winter for that 1 or 2 services you get. And then Bugmageddon doesn't happen in the spring except for your neighbors. Mm-hmm. And then you can get your neighbors to call U.S. Pest. That's what we do. So keep your pest control through the winter. It's very important. Bugs cause disease and all kinds of stuff.
And not to mention the mice and rodents and those types of things.
100%. Termites don't stop eating wood in the winter.
All of them are communists.
Right.
I like to say they're all communists. That's what I say.
And listen, there's a lot of invasions that we can't control, but U.S. Pest can control those invasions.
The little bug communist invasion.
That's right.
Well, I look at, and I don't say this because you're a sponsor of the show. I mean, you know how much I love you.
We're friends.
But I'm not going to tell a lie for you. But this is the truth, that bug control is a lot like, if you are the type of person that gets somebody to do your lawn care,
right?
And I'm talking about treating your lawn or whatever. If you stop in the winter, you're behind in the spring.
Right.
You've got to do certain things in the winter, different things, not the same in the summer because it's not growing or whatever, but pre-emergent and these types of things. So the same with bug control. You're doing different things.
Yes.
But you are doing things that you need in the wintertime and things that are preparing you for the springtime.
Right. And
that's what it's
and listen, that winter service does help make it easier on us because we're knocking down the winter bugs. Right. And so when the spring comes and everyone's inundated with everything and you're not having as much a problem, some people go, well, I don't know if I need it. I haven't had any bugs. I'm like, good. That means we're doing our job. It means it's working.
You should see no bugs.
But there's this history in the South especially where wintertime comes, you don't need pest control. I'll come back. Wrong. listen, guys, I want to educate everybody here. It doesn't matter if you use us. I want you to use us, but whoever you got, keep them through the winter because you need that pest control.
22 after the hour. JK's with us. We're going to talk about the presidential election.
Yeah, we're going to dig in next.
I want to see your thoughts on this. Plus, Chris, Chris is in Cottontown. Wants to talk to JK.
Okay.
I got no clues.
Cottontown.
Well, we'll find
I know
out.
everybody in Cottontown. I think I know him. We'll find out when we come back.
You know everybody and everywhere. God bless you, Mr. Jimmy. A lot of people are saying that to you. So, Mr. Jimmy, if you're listening, a lot of folks are thinking about you with your procedure. We'll be back, and we'll talk about 7 days to go. The media has already decided that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. Jeff Bezos is fighting back. All of these stories are coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Now, Jeff Bezos
All right, still got part of Highway 48 shut down just north of I-40 there in Hickman County for an overturned vehicle. Here from the campaign trail, former President Trump was fired up before he fires people up in Pennsylvania. We got that for you at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. Appreciate you over in the newsroom. Appreciate all of you listening to us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 228 and a good afternoon. The media has obviously labeled the Madison Square Garden rally as some sort of hate event. You hate to see it on CNN, but we saw like a breakdown in civility on CNN. And I say you hate to see it with my tongue firmly in my cheek because it couldn't happen to a worse group of people over, hashtag never CNN. That's why I call them hashtag never CNN. It's a garbage network full of garbage people spewing garbage. Don't watch CNN. I'll watch CNN so you don't have to. Right. That is they pay me to do that, right? So I'm watching CNN with this Mehdi Hassan, who is obviously an anti-Israeli, is an anti-Semite. He is a pro-Palestinian and by extension pro-Hamas terrorist supporter. That's what I believe that Mehdi Hassan is. I still have my free speech rights, and I can still say what I want to say about him. We're going to talk about him in a minute. We're talking with J.K. Brister of U.S. Past, just about politics and all kind of things. I mean, we can talk some bugs, too. But, but I want to talk politics with you.
Crawl spaces.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right, because y'all do all that.
Yeah, a division of my company is U.S. Crawl Space. A lot of people don't realize that we're not just a pest control company. We do crawl space, yes.
But Chris is in Cotton, not Watertown, Cottontown.
Hey, Chris.
And he's calling in. Hey, Chris.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
Really good.
Awesome. Hey, JK, I was curious, being the patriot that you are and a former extremely successful songwriter and country artist who had to reinvent himself into the business you and Erica have now, what is it like being the patriot and the strong, faith-filled man that you are, but yet having this kind of a company? Have you run into any kind of issues with getting canceled, or I'm not using you because you're so pro this and pro that and American and patriotic and all that?
Actually, very little of that. I don't think I've had any of that. I know that because of our billboards and the flags, and obviously Matt Murphy, we get literally calls every day saying, I heard it on Matt Murphy. I want to, go ahead and get protected by this amazing American company. And we haven't, I've personally probably been attacked. I'm not going to get into that. But you know what? It's like John was saying before, John Rich, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And you have to stand on principle. It's like, he was talking about with his sons, and he's told me that story before when I've been with him, and about his sons and how he had to look at it and say, am I going to compromise who I am for money? Am I going to? John literally had to. The music industry shut him out.
No, I know,
because he was so patriotic and so American and he was standing up for everything that we all believe in, and God bless him because he had enough money and resources and people around him that he could do his own thing, and he's beating them at their own game. Number one song in the world. He's beating all the big ones, So as far as that goes, being attacked for our political views, who isn't? You know what I mean? But I don't know if I've had anyone cancel or anything like that because of that. I think it's because we're such a great American company.
That's right.
And bugs aren't Republicans or Democrats.
They're
bugs
communists.
are not bugs are socialists, communists, but they're not. But we do what you should do with socialists and communists.
Hey, Chris, I got to scoot. Thank you for the call. I got to run.
Chris.
I got to get to Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and we'll be back in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, we've got part of Highway 48 in Hickman County shut down just north of I-40 there because of an overturned vehicle. This is at Moore Hollow Road. Election 2024, former President Trump rallying in Pennsylvania today. He was fired up before leaving Mar-a-Lago this morning.
So we're going to fight like hell for the next 7 days, and then hopefully... And then hopefully, and most importantly, we're going to be fighting even harder for the next 4 years because we're going to turn this around and we're going to make this country greater than it has ever been.
Vice President Harris tonight in Washington, D.C. to give what her campaign's calling closing arguments with the White House as her backdrop. Well, 2 people wanted in connection with the armed robbery at Dubai Jewelry on Nolensville Pike have been arrested by police in Miami Beach.
These 2 offenders were extremely brazen. They walked inside of the jewelry store, posed as customers, and shortly thereafter held the 2 employees at gunpoint before stealing about $1.7 million of jewelry and gold.
That's Miami Beach police officer Christopher Best says the pair were tracked via their car. They're local to South Florida. 38-year-old Melanie Garcia, 34-year-old Orlando Valdez have appeared in a Florida bond court. They're awaiting extradition to Nashville. Entertainment news. Actor Terry Garr has died. Garr, known for so many roles in Young Frankenstein, Tootsie, and Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And here she is in 1977's Oh, God.
I went to empty the garbage and 2 people blessed me. And then one of them blessed the garbage. And then he asked me if our children were conceived immaculately.
Now, calm down, honey.
The police had to take our kids to school today because they said it was safer.
Her publicist says Garr died of multiple sclerosis, surrounded by family and friends. She was 79. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. And, you know, you ask me, what can you do outside of listening to the radio station, voting in a week? What can you do to fight for conservative values? Well, you can get into the fight right now with Coin, the conservative credit card. Instead of funneling millions of dollars to the left like other cards, Coin advances conservative values and gives to conservative charity. Earn cash back while fighting back. Apply today at coin.com. The spelling, COIGN.com. That's coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to coin.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Steve Bannon's out of jail. Hey, Kamala Harris agreed to a cognitive test. I don't know that she knew what she was agreeing to, but she agreed to a cognitive test. She said that she would take one if Trump took one. She made that agreement in the last interview that she did a couple of days ago. So that's great. You agree to a cognitive test around the same time frame as thank you, JK. Around the same time frame as making it impossible for you to actually do one before the election happens. What do you and I were talking during the break, and I just want to extend the conversation to the listening audience. I'm naturally a pessimist.
Yeah.
And so I'm fighting with my natural pessimism. I always fight against my natural pessimism. I want to be more optimistic, and I do believe in the people of the United States of America. I don't believe in our government, but I believe in the people.
Right.
I'm having a hard time not feeling good about next Tuesday.
Yeah.
What about you?
So, as an American, obviously you're optimistic, and we're all optimistic, like you said, about the American people. It's even less about that. It's more about the American ideal, the American experiment, like they say, and what the founders envisioned. You can be optimistic about that because there's always going to be a generation that when the weak men create hard times, that the strong men will bring good times through the fight.
Yeah,
right?
The hard times create the strong man,
right?
And then the strong
men
right.
create good times, right? So it's like sometimes I feel like a warrior looking for a garden, right? It's because you've been fighting for so long. Now you're just like, you're all battered, you're scarred, and everything makes you real pessimistic. However, I will tell you this. I've said this a few times, and it's to your point. If Kamala wins, it's rigged. Because I know the polls are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is not neck and neck with her. He ain't 8 points up in nothing. I believe that he's 15 points up in everything, and he's at least 10 points ahead of her in everything. Just like in 2016, the polls were skewed. Mm-hmm. It made it look like they were real close together, and he blew Hillary out of the water. The polls later, they adjusted the polls, and he polled way better than they were putting out.
Well, here's what I look at, JK, and this makes me feel better because I know what you're saying, and I'm trying to figure out how to overcome what I think is a natural bias within the poll.
Right.
Right. I think most of the pollsters are biased. Anything that has an ABC or a CBS or an NBC or a Washington Post or a New York Times attached to it, I don't believe it.
Or Emerson College.
I think right. I mean, I think it's baked in, and there's a natural baked in bias. They're creating a narrative. Plus, I think it is natural, and we've seen it over my lifetime doing this, that conservatives/Republicans are more leery of the mainstream press.
Right.
And they are, frankly, less likely to respond to a poll.
Right.
Thirdly, I think that there is something to be said for those Trump supporters that want to be rather quiet about it because they're fearful. I mean, you're seeing, and that fear, although I don't want anyone to be fearful, I understand why they are in terms of being vocal about their support of Donald Trump because liberals have become the most intolerant human beings in the United States of America, to the point that, as an example, my adopted hometown of Mount Juliet, they were some leftist, one would assume, they are defacing and vandalizing Trump signs.
All right.
Big, like, those big 4x8s.
Ones, yeah.
And they're doing it in various ways. They're writing stuff on them. They're spray painting them. And they defaced like 5 of them. And the city was going to take them up. And the people that own the signs, and the city was trying to do a service. They were trying to do the right thing. I talked to the mayor about it.
Right.
And he said, well, we thought that they would want us to take them up. So we took them up. And the people that own the sign said, no, go put them back out. We want everyone in Mount Juliet to see what these folks are.
Right.
And to see what they do. Because you don't see Harris signs defaced.
No.
I mean, you know what? I think you're absolutely wrong. And if I had a conversation with you, I would talk to you about what I believe America ought to be. And let's have a conversation.
Right.
But I'm not going to rip up your sign.
They don't want to talk to you.
But they don't want to talk to you. So, I think there's one group that are willing to do that. So you bake that in to the polls. So what I do is I went back and I looked at 2016 and I looked at 2020.
Yeah.
And now I look at 2024. And I want to see how was Trump doing in Pennsylvania in 2020? How's he doing now? How was Trump doing, not Harris or Biden, how was Trump doing in Wisconsin in 2020? The same polls. Let's look at that NBC poll. I don't think they're any less or more biased. They're biased.
Right.
But that's going to cut me through the bias. So I'm looking at Trump in Pennsylvania and Trump in Wisconsin and Trump in Michigan. And in most of these states, in 2024, he is plus 4, 5, or 6 points above what he was in 2020.
Right.
And they barely took it from us in 2020. That tells me that Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania has to make up 6 points.
Right.
In Pennsylvania?
Right.
It ain't happening. I don't think.
Well,
I mean, unless, what does Trump say? Too big to rig?
Yes. And and so my optimistic side is telling me that I just went and I haven't seen lines for early voting. I went and early voted on my birthday or yesterday. My birthday was 2 days ago. Birthday present, I went and voted.
What?
It was like 8. Listen,
buried the lead.
5 people wide.
Were you 43?
At 8 in the morning.
43?
Yeah, I'm 43. Yeah. 51, but who's counting? You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't believe the amount of people in the line. Usually you just walk in on early voting, you just walk in, you're done in 10 minutes. Like, people are standing in line for 6 hours to vote. That's not
I love it.
The left. That's not. So the whole mission, the Republican Party, and we can say different things about Democrats, Republicans, whatever. The party itself, I don't want to talk about that. But the voters, the Republican, independent, libertarian, pro-America, patriotic, God-fearing, fight people, like, something's happened. And I believe that we are overwhelmingly at the polls. But I want to go back to your original point on your question about being pessimistic. Listen, man, 2020, riots, cities burning, everything burning down, mostly peaceful protests, all of that stuff, right? Biden won. What? One protest at the Capitol one day.
Right.
Okay.
Nobody died. Despite what they're trying to tell you now.
They use word salad on Morning Joe and stuff, saying people died. They just say, well, and people died, but they know they mean weeks and days later. It wasn't that day. Right. Not making excuses for any real violence that happened or things like that. But that goes without saying. But look at Trump's assassination. Look at the Jason Aldean concert in Vegas. Look at the school shootings. Look at all of it. It's all left wing. Listen, where are all the right wing, patriot, MAGA terrorists like John was talking about, where they're sending out warnings to sheriffs all over the country that be prepared for MAGA terrorism after the election? No, here's what's going to happen. Trump's going to win, okay? Mm-hmm. I just, in my heart, in the Lord, just praying, I know he's going to win, and there's going to be a lull. There's going to be crying and bedwetting and all that stuff. And then there's going to be a wave. And it's in my heart, and just watching the whole geography of politics for 25 years, okay? Mm-hmm. You can almost see it, and I know you see it, and I'm going to say out loud what we common sense people, what me as a professional politician says. I'm not going to parse my words. They are going to lose their minds, and AOC said it on the podcast with what's his name, the vice president guy, Walz. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
At the end, she said, I don't want to go through another 4 years of being the resistance. They're already planning it. The cities they're gonna burn cities. They're gonna attack. They're going to try and make Trump's the reality of what they're saying, which is propaganda, the truth.
The leftist will not go on these platforms that I'm talking to right now, but every platform that has any sense about you, you need, whether you're television media, radio media, podcast, whatever.
Right.
every Democrat needs to be asked the same question. Will you accept the results of the election on November 5th,
Hillary
2024?
still hasn't.
Right. Well, that's right. So they love to ask that question to Republicans in the aftermath of 2020.
Yeah.
Well, and Republicans say, well, if the, and no ifs or buts, yes or no, yes or no. You have to answer yes or no. Well, will you? Because I feel comfortable enough to tell you that I will, if fairly contested, accept the results of the election if fairly contested, and that's the only caveat that I put on it.
So let me cut in here on you. The government apparatus. When you hear President Donald Trump talk, he's talking about us. He's talking about patriots. He's talking about the working class. He's talking about landowners, business owners, housewives, homeschool moms. He's talking about hardworking construction people. He worked construction when he was a kid. What did Kamala? Literally every time I hear Kamala Harris, what is she saying? She's saying 23 Nobel Prize winning economists. It's 42
all
generals.
Keynesian guys.
It's all, Keynesian. But my point is she's pointing to politicians. She's talking to political figures that worked in his administration who got fired. Let me tell you something. There's probably some people that badmouth me that work for me, but not a lot of them. Okay? I promise you, everyone that works for us is loyal. They're beautiful. They're amazing people, okay? But when you have to let someone go, are they happy about it?
No, of course
not.
not.
And that guy is wanting to write a book. I guarantee he comes out with 3 books, and he does the circuit, and he gets a high-paid position on MSNBC, and that's why he's doing it.
Well, Kamala Harris, I don't think you understand, JK. She came from a middle-class family. She worked at McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that or
Actually, I think Donald Trump just worked at McDonald's longer than she ever did.
Exactly right. Look, it's always a pleasure when you swing in. I love hearing your thoughts on politics. I love hearing you talk bugs, too. But I appreciate you being on with us and stepping in.
I just want to say this. America is the greatest country on earth.
Yep.
Okay? You are an American patriot.
You're very kind.
And I love you to death.
Love
and
you
I'm
too.
grateful for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful for you, sir. Headless
Bell.
back there.
Yeah, Headless Bell.
Headless Bell. And I just wanted to say Tennessee is one of the greatest states on earth, and we need a lot of things in Tennessee. There's a lot of change that needs to happen. There's a lot of growth that needs to happen. And the patriots that are coming to this state, and they're backing up people like you, people like me, and other things. We've changes on the frontier for Tennessee. And I just want to tell everybody out there, God bless y'all, and God bless America, and Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and we all love you. And thank you for being patriots in Tennessee. It is the greatest state to live in the world.
J.K. Brister, everybody. 51 after the hour on Super Talk. Winding down our portion of the day, let's find out what Brian Wilson has to say on the drive coming up in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I did note, for those of you hitting me up on the Super Text line, that yes, Ashley Babbitt did die that day. I should have said no Capitol Police officers or no others in charge of Capitol security perished that day, like many in the mainstream media would want us to believe. We'll crank it up tomorrow at high noon. Until then, Ken Weaver's Newscast coming up right now, and The Drive with Brian Wilson after that on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So long.